At least 3 Barrett Honors professors are no longer teaching at ASU because their contracts were not renewed. But it wasn't because of what was going on in their classrooms, but because of what may have been going on behind closed doors.
This is a very prestigious college there at ASU, and Fox 10 has uncovered a pattern of sexual relationships between students and professors at that honors college. Relationships that ultimately led to some professors leaving the university and students claiming sexual abuse.
Nicole Garcia has more tonight.
ASU leaders are working on passing a new mandate on campus that would define consent. It would essentially say that a consensual relationship is not really consensual when it's between a professor and one of its students. ASU leaders wanting to define those types of relationships as non-consensual no matter what. Now, this comes as federal investigators are looking into how ASU handles sexual harassment and sexual abuse complaints by students, and after several professors' contracts were not renewed.
It's considered the crown jewel of ASU, but recently, some of the activities going on outside of this college has raised some eyebrows.
I could see these male professors taking advantage of their students and sleeping with them.
According to ASU personnel records, 3 Barrett Honors professors were all let go within the last 2 years after they admitted to having sexual relationships with students. Dr. Joel Hunter's contract was not renewed in March of this year. An internal investigation by ASU found he violated the university's policies against student-professor relationships and sexual harassment. Dr. David Kahn's contract was not renewed in April of 2013. According to a Tempe police report, Kahn's was let go after the university found out he was in a sexual relationship with a student. The police report indicates Kahn's told the student he blamed her for losing his job, and about a week later, Kahn's took his own life. Dr. Eric Susser's contract was not renewed in 2012. Susser says the separation was mutual. An ASU investigation reveals he admitted to having had sexual relationships with 3 different Barrett Honors students, but he told officials each relationship was consensual.
What we hear less about on college campuses is the way that power can undermine consent, and that's what we're trying to call attention to at Barrett.
Jasmine Lester is the founder of Sun Devils Against Sexual Abuse. She says she was at one point involved with one of her professors, and now she's speaking out on behalf of others like her who feel they were sexually abused. Yes, the relationships took place between consenting adults, but the University Senate wants to redefine the concept of consent. A bill that was recently put forth would make it clear there is a presumption that an intimate relationship between a faculty member and an undergraduate student is not consensual, because while a faculty member may perceive a relationship as consensual, the student may not feel the same way and may not be able to voice it otherwise. The student who was involved with Dr. Hunter wants to remain anonymous because she's still going to Barrett, and she's scared of retaliation, but she wants to share her story.
Even though it wasn't an exchange of sexual favors for academic ones, he coerced me into sexual things I didn't want to do because I was thinking in the back of my mind, I don't want to upset him and get a bad grade on the next paper. And he just wrote me a nice letter of recommendation, so I guess I owe him.
She filed a formal complaint with the university several months after the relationship ended.
I felt like I had to protect him and was worried that getting help would jeopardize his job. So I suffered in silence, and the pain grew worse, and I self-harmed and almost killed myself.
It's essentially a complete loss of control, of vulnerability, and those are the same kind of feelings that traditional sexual abuse victims struggle with. It's the lack of control of their own emotions, body, sexuality.
Psychiatrist Dr. Michael Yasinski, who is not involved in any of the cases, says most students involved in a student-professor relationship cannot give true and informed consent in that kind of power dynamic situation.
It's that lack of control that the students perceiving that they don't have control over their own body, their own thoughts, their own emotions, because they lose that control to the person that is pulling the strings.
We're not talking about relationships that have gone wrong. We're talking about relationships that have started out wrong.
ASU is among several schools under federal investigation for the way it handles sexual abuse and sexual harassment complaints. The university's recent investigation into Dr. Hunter concluded the student was not in a position to effectively consent to the relationship and that Dr. Hunter's conduct was unwelcome and non-consensual. It's the recognition Jasmine Lester and the students who've come forward with their stories were waiting for, and they hope it will begin to change the culture at ASU's Barrett Honors College.
I'm doing this because I see how the administration has allowed this to happen, and I want to use my experience to do whatever I can to make it so that this won't keep happening.
ASU officials declined an on-camera interview for this story. They would say, though, they take all sexual misconduct complaints very seriously. They investigate those claims and deliver swift punishment if violations are found. Meanwhile, Dr. Hunter has hired an attorney and is appealing the university's recent findings on his case. I'm Nicole Garcia, Fox 10 News.